The first topic for the final period would be biodiversity and the healthy society. In this video, I'll be showing 3 video clips that will talk about this topic.
Our planet's diverse, thriving ecosystems may seem like permanent fixtures, but they're actually vulnerable to collapse. Jungles can become deserts, and reefs can become lifeless rocks, even without cataclysmic events like volcanoes and asteroids. What makes one ecosystem strong and another weak in the face of change? The answer, to a large extent, is biodiversity. Biodiversity is built out of 3 intertwined features: ecosystem diversity, species diversity, and genetic diversity. The more intertwining there is between these features, the denser and more resilient the weave becomes. Take the Amazon rainforest, one of the most biodiverse regions on Earth, due to its complex ecosystems, huge mix of species, and the genetic variety within those species. Here are tangled liana vines, which crawl up from the forest floor to the canopy, intertwining with treetops and growing thick wooded stems that support these towering trees. Helped along by the vines, trees provide the seeds, fruits, and leaves to herbivores such as the tapir and the agouti, which disperse their seeds throughout the forest so they can grow. Leftovers are consumed by the millions of insects that decompose and recycle nutrients to create rich soil. The rainforest is a huge system filled with many smaller systems like this, each packed with interconnected species. Every link provides stability to the next, strengthening biodiversity's weave. That weave is further reinforced by the genetic diversity within individual species, which allows them to cope with changes. Species that lack genetic diversity due to isolation or low population numbers are much more vulnerable to fluctuations caused by climate change, disease, or habitat fragmentation. Whenever a species disappears because of its weakened gene pool, a knot is untied and parts of the net disintegrate. So, what if we were to remove one species from the rainforest? Would the system fall apart? Probably not. The volume of species, their genetic diversity, and the complexity of the ecosystems form such rich biodiversity in this forest that one species gap in the weave won't cause it to unravel. The forest can stay resilient and recover from change. But that's not true in every case. In some environments, taking away just one important component can undermine the entire system. Take coral reefs, for instance. Many organisms in a reef are dependent on the coral. It provides key microhabitats, shelter, and breeding grounds for thousands of species of fish, crustaceans, and mollusks. Corals also form interdependent relationships with fungi and bacteria. The coral itself is a loom that allows the tangled net of biodiversity to be woven. That makes coral a keystone organism, one that many others depend on for their survival. So what happens when destructive fishing practices, pollution, and ocean acidification weaken coral or even kill it altogether? Exactly what you might think. The loss of this keystone species leaves its dependents at a loss too, threatening the entire fabric of the reef. Ecosystem, species, and genetic diversity together form the complex tangled weave of biodiversity that is vital for the survival of organisms on Earth. We humans are woven into this biodiversity too. When just a few strands are lost, our own well-being is threatened. Cut too many links, and we risk unraveling it all. What the future brings is unpredictable, but biodiversity can give us an insurance policy, Earth's own safety net, to safeguard our survival.
Okay, so that's the short description of what biodiversity is, and now let's proceed to the causes and effects of biodiversity loss.
Our planet is simply amazing. It is one big, finely tuned incredible machine. Like cogs, pulleys and wheels working together, depending on each other in so many ways, creating a green, blue healthy world that you, us, everyone depends on. For food, fuel, medicine and other essentials that we simply cannot live without. And just like any other machines, it takes knocks and bruises. But it can bounce back, stretch, adapt, mend. It is part of what makes it so remarkable. But to what extent can the place we call home endure the constant battering caused by human beings? We're entering unknown territory where some of the extinctions we are causing may have deep and profound effects on how we live our lives. These effects may be currently seen as the equivalent of storm clouds gathering on the horizon. But rest assured, the storm is coming. Biodiversity is us. It is the link between all organisms on Earth, binding each into an interdependent ecosystem, in which all species have their role. It is the web of life. Thriving biodiversity relies on the many relationships that exists between all living things. These relationships help create the essential conditions for life: clean air, fresh water, and food. The environment also provides us with the resources we use for fuel, shelters, and medicines. The availability of enough food, water, and other resources for every creature to live and grow depends on the health of the surrounding environment, making biodiversity essential for life. Human activities are disturbing both the structure and functions of ecosystems and altering native biodiversity. Such disturbances reduce the abundance of some organisms, cause population growth in others, modify the interactions among organisms, and alter the interactions between organisms and their physical and chemical environments. According to the Living Planet Index, LPI, there is a decline in biodiversity of 52% between 1970 and 2010. Biodiversity loss has happened faster in the past 50 years than any other time in human history. We lose 35 million acres of native forest, the size of Nepal, every year. Each hour, 3 species of animals, plants, and other living things vanish forever. We've lost 1/5 of the planet's coral reefs, up to 1/3 of its mangrove forests, 1/2 of the world's wetland. It seems as though we don't think the nature is worth saving. It's time to ask the big question. What is the biodiversity's worth? What is nature's worth? Plants counteract climate change by capturing carbon dioxide. Wetlands purify water flowing into lakes and streams and into us. Forests soak up rain, reducing the risk of floods. Worms turns waste into life-sustaining soil. Mangroves protect coasts from storms. Microbes found in the ocean produces 1/2 of the oxygen we breathe. Nature is behind 9 out of 10 of the world's best medicines. Fruits, nuts, vegetables and other crops benefits from nature's pollinators. Woods and wetlands, prairies and ponds, bring beauty to our lives, increases property values and give living things a place to call home.
Okay, so the video that you have just seen reminds us about the sad reality existing in our planet today. It tells us the causes of biodiversity loss and its tragic effect to our environment. And it's sad to say that human beings are most of the time responsible for having this. Now, for the last video clip, it will show us some examples on how every living thing is harmoniously interconnected with other living things around it. This would actually teach us that every creature we see around us has a function that contributes to the overall design of life.
Creating a set of blueprints for the construction of a house requires that the architect consider each individual detail. But he must also ensure that everything harmonizes with the overall design. What about the design of life? Do we also see evidence of careful planning and an overall harmony between living things? Our world is filled with marvels of creation, each wonderfully unique. Yet, as we have considered, all living organisms have something fundamental in common: our DNA blueprint. From these incredibly tiny molecules come all the complexity and diversity of life. But even beyond the physical appearance, behaviors, abilities, and instincts of individual organisms, DNA spells out the potential for amazing interactions between different creations. The more we observe the natural world around us, the more we begin to see an underlying harmony emerging from the design of life. For example, many flowering plants produce nectar, which serves as a food for insects and other animals. But the benefit is not one-sided. As bees drink nectar from a flower, they're dusted with tiny grains of pollen and carry these to other flowers of the same kind. Many flowering plants and trees depend on this pollination to reproduce. Yes, by wonderful design, bees, plants, animals, and humans all benefit from this relationship. Hidden beneath the soil, we find another beneficial relationship between plants and fungus. Since they are unable to produce their own food, certain fungi infect the roots of plants and absorb carbohydrates from their host. But instead of being harmful, the fungus can actually help the plant. The filaments of the fungus provide a much greater surface area to absorb minerals and water, which are shared with the plant. Additionally, the fungus can extend into soil that is inaccessible to the roots of the plant. With this assistance, the plant is able to take in more nutrients from the soil, grow faster, and better tolerate extreme conditions. Virtually all plants benefit from this type of helpful relationship with fungus. In the depths of the oceans, we find more alliances between different kinds of creatures, some very unexpected. Groups of large fish gather in areas where smaller, cleaner fish assist them by removing dead skin and parasites from the visitors. Under other circumstances, the larger fish might eat the smaller ones. But at these cleaning stations, the large fish allow themselves to be attended to. Most fish avoid the stinging tentacles of the sea anemone, but the clownfish makes a home right in among them. A special coating on its skin protects the clownfish from being stung. In this way, the clownfish is safe from predators. In return, the clownfish may share food with the anemone and provide protection against anemone-eating fish. Elsewhere, a goby fish and a shrimp live together in the shrimp's burrow. To protect its nearly blind host, the goby stands guard and taps the shrimp with its tail to warn of danger. These are just a few examples of the interconnections we see all around us when we look more closely at the natural world. How do these instinctively wise creatures know to form partnerships with others so different from themselves? Somehow, the potential for these relationships is recorded within the DNA of each one. Yes, life is not just a random collection of individual creations, but rather a marvelously orchestrated masterpiece of design. Each living thing plays its part in perfect harmony with others around it, joining together in the magnificent symphony of life. To learn more about creation is to gaze in wonder at design and engineering far superior to anything mankind has devised. It is to catch a glimpse of the mind of the master designer, Jehovah God. You are worthy, Jehovah, to receive the glory and the honor and the power, because you created all things.